Welcome to another episode of Just Some Points. I hope you had a good week. There was a lot of great news or interesting news again this week, so let's dive right into it. Catherine, what do you have for us this week?
This week, I'll be talking about the new feature that Twitter is currently testing. It's called Super Followers. And what it is it allows creators to give paid access to different things like extra tweets and maybe community groups and things like that. And also they'll be testing newsletters. So it's a subscription-based $4.99 a month for users to get this access to the extra tweets. And the users that do subscribe to it also get a badge to show their support on their profile. Overall, I don't know how well this is going to take off. I've always thought of Twitter as more of like a quick news platform, so not necessarily getting like the extra bonus kind of like lifestyle content that is usually found with subscription-based platforms. Overall, I do see subscription-based platforms are all over the place. A lot of people are offering that to their followers, but it's not so much as like the latest news and trends that we do see on Twitter.
I would agree with you. I'm surprised how that will go too. It's obviously their attempt to open up another revenue stream for themselves and also for users, so for big users or we famous users. But I'm not sure about that. If Twitter is really the right platform for that, I think they feel some pressure from the shareholders to introduce new revenue streams, and I'm with you on that. So it would be interesting to see how that will change, or if it will change it at all. I certainly wouldn't look at Twitter as something where I would want to pay $4.95 to follow somebody, but who am I?
I actually think that it might be beneficial for people who are job searching, because I actually know a surprising amount of people who have found their jobs through connecting with people on Twitter.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. So I wonder if they're going to take kind of like a LinkedIn approach where you're going to, get some access and make better connections from like a career perspective.
That's interesting. Okay, I could see that. Actually, with that in mind, another profession that might actually pay for that is actually reporters and news people that just want to get more, want to have access to more information. So so maybe there is a place for that, but the question is if the common user like you and I, if we would pay for that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, interesting. Melissa, what do you have?
I'm going to talk about a new feature or a new platform created by Facebook called Facebook Bars. And it's going to rival TikTok. It's a new platform and a new app where it's very similar style to TikTok and Instagram Reels, where they're 60-second videos, except these are particularly for freestyle rapping. So people can create like 30 to 60-second freestyle rapping videos, and you can same thing like how we do with TikTok, where you can create little like multi-segments, and the editing features, rather than editing features for like the video effects and like text and things like that, it's going to be more like auto tuning, rhyming dictionary. And they're going to introduce like challenges, like daily challenges, and they're going to have winners, and you're going to be able to vote and promote, certain raps over others. So I think it's, really interesting that they're taking the TikTok model and they're finding a very niche group of people. And they're going to just use it for creating new music and engaging with like a very specific target audience.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting to see, a couple of thoughts on that one. First, for TikTok, you don't need any skills to do a TikTok video. For this, you do. So to your point, it makes it very niche. And so it will be very interesting to see how that will go. As you were just basically telling me there's another platform from Facebook, I was thinking, another one? I'm starting with Facebook. I start having the problem they roll out another thing, a reel and this and this and that. I'm
Mhm.
losing track of all the things they do and all the things that they roll out, yet I just look at them as Facebook. That's
Sure.
one thing. For me, there's one brand is Facebook. So I'm getting more and more confused. They obviously they grabble everywhere and try to, get a hold of different groups more and more. But I don't see, other than trying to be dominant in all of our lives, I don't see a transparent strategy that's apparent to me. There might be, so I have to assume there is a strategy. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the, similar boat. They always, every time Facebook makes a statement, they always talk about how they want to be transparent, and they want to be, more recognized in who owns what, and, what they're doing with the data and everything like that. And with this new platform, I don't know how much of it is going to be saying, hey, this is a Facebook platform, this is a part of the Facebook community. So I have a feeling from what I've been reading that it's kind of off brand from Facebook.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it even more confusing to me. Then it's just that doesn't make sense. But again, it's like very often we don't get the bigger picture these big corporations have. But I feel like too often they just react um, to what the environment is doing, and they sometimes some of those social media moves that some of those big tech companies make are too much like panic reactions to a success of somebody else or something new, instead of really strategically thinking how it fits into their platform.
Yeah.
But it's what you just mentioned last with the data and transparency kind of fits to my topic today. I want to talk about an announcement Google made this week that raised some eyebrows. And I would say overall, it's kind of a good thing, kind of, I guess. And then what they announced again was that the very latest by 2022, they will no longer support third-party cookies. Now, we have talked about that in the past, and before getting into the white raised eyebrows, let me just basically catch up everybody on, just set the stage for this. Last year, they basically announced this already, and other big tech companies also raised the issue of privacy concerns and data tracking, and specifically user tracking online. Like Apple announced to to no longer support the usage of cookies in the Safari browser last year, which they implement this year, hopefully, finally. Firefox announced the total blockage of cookie data. You have to download the newest browser, but you can do that now. And then with Google's third-party cookie announcement last year was a big thing. So they're going kind of in the right direction. But in the meantime, despite all of those announcements and those changes, advertisers on the other side are trying to expand their reach more and more, and the techniques to bypass all of those things. For example, today there are on smart TVs, they're placing cookies on smart TVs today to expand basically the analysis of all of our behavior actually into our living room, literally on a click by click basis with smart TVs. In order to avoid cookies, what some companies start to do is to create fingerprints of us where they use different data that publicly are available, publicly meaning through the browser that will continue to be available, where they use different information, and they realize that if I combine a few information about somebody and I put them together, that's actually almost becoming like a fingerprint of the person. I can still track that person then, even without a cookie. And then there, in recent history, there are cookies discovered that they regenerate them, they recreate themselves despite you deleting them. For me, that's really borderline illegal, because that uses techniques and technologies from the virus world. That, to me, I would consider that a virus. If I say I want to have you off my computer and you generate yourself automatically. So those things were happening while the big companies make all these, bold announcements. Well, we want to stop tracking of individuals. So why did this announcement raise eyebrows? Mainly the timing, because there was nothing new in the announcement, but the timing is interesting because what's becoming clear is that the pressure from the lawmakers and politics and consumer organization is starting to get to them. And so the announcement that they pushed out yesterday is seen more as a signal to the lawmakers, basically saying, we get you, okay, we want to address your concerns, we want to do something. And they also gave a glimpse into what they want to do going forward. Instead of tracking us individually, Google specifically wants to create so-called flocks. Flocks are basically groups of users, of individuals, of all of us, with similar profiles. So they might say, okay, in my case, German-born guy living in New Jersey, working in marketing or whatever. So obviously that would be a very niche group, but they basically want to create groups. And then as a marketer, you market to groups. They feel that it still creates enough information for advertisers to target properly and really be successful in advertising. So to me, it sounds kind of good, but only kind of, because if you really look at it closer, I think I still have major issues with that. First of all, I think it creates, they are not talking about how many flocks they create. They can create a gazillion flocks that are so, detailed that it almost comes close to, tracking us or targeting us individually. And then the other thing, as I was thinking about that, the other thing it does, it actually it adds another layer of lack of transparency. Before, the lawmakers and organizations, they could see what those advertising Google is doing with the pixels. Now they put flocks in between. We don't know what's going to happen behind the scenes, because reality is Google will continue to collect, all this valuable information because of who they are and how they actually obtain the information. So in my opinion, this is a smokescreen. And that's why I think that's why we raised the eyebrows of a lot of people. In Europe, especially, where I would say the privacy concerns are bigger than in America, and certainly bigger than in Asia. Some of the lawmakers are making really very bold suggestions. They're going as far as suggesting that personal data should be completely disallowed for marketing purposes. And so they're making really a major push to that happen, to make that happening. And then actually, when I was reading that, it actually occurred to me that that is actually partially in place in the US for a very specific market, and that is for the medical market. We're dealing with that, for almost 2 decades. The HIPAA laws prevent you to market to individuals based on your understanding or knowledge of any illnesses or disease. So that is kind of going in that direction. But overall, I would say it will be interesting how this shakes out. And I thought it was worthwhile to bring this up because, Points Group has always been siding more with the consumers than with the corporations, despite us being in that business. Mm-hmm. But I feel more like, because we're in this business, we know what's possible. Mm-hmm. And I think the protection of the consumers is very important. Mm-hmm. So I think that concludes this week's episode. Hope you thought it was interesting. I'm always looking forward every week to learn more from Melissa and Catherine. So see you next week.